Do I have to say something? Oh.
Nope. In today's episode, we're going over, is it too late to start a physical therapy career at 30? Joining with me is John Riccardelli. Has some great questions for us. Basically, is it too late to start physical therapy career? But I think we're going to sit down and just have a chat because he had a bunch of different questions. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and thanks for having me a part of this video chat today, or podcast, or whatever it's called today.
I know, right? Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, appreciate
Yeah,
it. Thank you for being on. You know, you had sent me a few questions on Instagram DM,
yeah,
and I was like, these are great questions. You know, if you could come on the show, that'd be even better. So
yeah. Here I am.
yeah, pumped that you're here.
Yeah, me
Um,
too. Me too.
Great. Well, shoot these questions over. Let's get
Okay.
started.
I guess no particular order, but I guess first question: is it not too late to pursue, as you mentioned before, a career as a PT? I am almost 30. Everyone says I'm still young, but sometimes I feel like I'm 50 already. Sometime because I guess here's just a brief. I graduated high school 2012. I went to college. I went to Suffolk County Community College because it was affordable, cheaper, and I thought I'd stay on location. And then not only that, it was a nice way to ease my way into college rather than going to some big fancy university. And before this, I certified from ISSA personal training, and I wanted to do physical therapy to expand my knowledge. And little did I was misinformed of not being told how hard science and biology courses are. I mean, I knew the anatomy stuff, like the bones, the muscles, but when it came to all the Krebs cycle, the DNA, and all that, that was like just abstract to me, and a different language for biology.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I hear what you're saying. You know, it's like you're getting a little bit more advanced, maybe in age, and you haven't really picked a career yet.
Yeah, I'm still
Imagine.
on the up in the air because I guess here's another brief story. Before COVID, I was, not to get too much away, I was sort of like in a rut and like stuck in a slump of not knowing where my life was going at that time. Then when COVID happened, that was like a big, another big like edge and like a big question up in the air thing with COVID. No one saw it coming. It was a nightmare. And a little personal fact about it, I love horror movies, and people say they're so scared. I'm like, that was the horror movie, the pandemic.
Yeah, for
Yeah, nothing
sure.
was more scary than worrying about a lethal deadly virus that was no joke.
I know. I definitely threw a wrench in things,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
but the
Um,
weird part is it helped. There was like a negative that became a positive. I helped like figure things out for myself. I started my YouTube channel on fitness and film reviews, which is different topics, but still. It also
yeah,
made me think about, and I also went back to school to Empire State College, which I'm currently at right now.
well, good. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Sounds like you do have a plan at this point. You know,
somewhat,
I
somewhat, but
do.
it's still up in the air questions I don't have all the answers to.
Yeah, you're figuring it out. To go back to your initial question, I don't think it's too late to start. I mean, the big thing is that if you have a dream, if you have something you want to accomplish with this life, I think you should go with it. And it doesn't really
Right,
matter what age you are. You know,
right,
it's like, are you going to live the rest of your life doing something you're miserable doing, or are you going to try to work towards something that you enjoy?
right.
Um, I think for you, just having spoke to you a little bit, and sounds like you're kind of between PT, PTA, personal
Yeah,
training. You have a
debating.
variety. Yeah, for sure. You have a variety of options, and
Yeah,
we talked about this before, but physical therapy is certainly one of those. PTA is another option you were discussing.
right.
I think a lot of folks do a great job working in the rehab kind of realm, but they're personal trainers or strength coaches. I
Right.
think the pros of being a physical therapist is that you're going to be very, very good working with injuries, both
Yeah,
diagnosis, treatment. You're going to
yeah,
get a world class education through the universities that we have
right.
available, and you really are going to be a true expert from that perspective.
Yeah,
The problem with that is it's very expensive, it's time consuming. So at least in
yes.
the states, it's average of
That's
150,000.
that's why I'm considering maybe PTA, because it's like, all right, it's less crazy than what a physical therapist has to go through with getting their like master's or PhD or whatever. I don't know. It seems to be changing. I can't really like define the answer to that, whether they need both or one of the above. I don't know whether it's statewide. I can't speak for that part.
I know. Yeah. So I would say if you really want to be a true expert in working with injuries and have that be the primary goal of what you do on a regular basis, I think being a physical therapist is the way to go. In terms of the PTA, I think you end up getting to work with people that have injuries a little bit more quickly, a little bit
Yeah,
more cheap. I
Yeah.
don't know how things are practiced in. Are you in Canada? Are you
No,
what
no, I live, upstate New York.
upstate? Okay, yeah.
I mean,
For some
I'm
reason
not
I
that
thought.
far from, Canada.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
'Cause
So largely as a
originally, I'm from Long Island, but I moved upstate during the, pandemic because I wanted to be close to some, like, family of mine that I'm close to.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
In terms of the PTA, generally speaking, PTAs don't do diagnosis, not doing evaluation,
right,
um,
right,
which I think is kind of, do you want to be the person who kind of runs the whole physical therapy kind of operation and is the brains of, hey, let's diagnose this person, come with a plan of care? Or do you want to be more of the, I run through the manual therapies, I run through the exercises, I'm kind of
right. Well,
helping.
I would say here's somewhat of an example, right? Right now, I'm currently, as I'm going to school, I am a, caretaker for my 94-year-old grandfather, and I make sure that he does his PT exercises some way. That's sort of like a little bit of a glimpse of physical therapy assistance to me, and I find that, I mean, well, it's not easy trying to motivate him because he's 94 and he's got a different mindset, and he lives different like time period in his life. What he remembers what the world was like back in the 1950s compared to today's modern world and stuff like that.
Yeah, very different.
Oh, it is. It is. Every time I tell him how much that a gallon of milk costs, he's like, "What?"
Yeah, kind of nuts. So
Yeah,
going back to your question here, I think if you're looking to kind of run the ship a little more so and want to have autonomy of being able to diagnose and treat and do everything, I think
right.
physical therapy is the option. The other thing that we talked about is potentially going the personal training career and
Yeah,
then trying to work with more rehab. And to be honest, I think that that's actually a really good choice too.
yeah,
Looking back on what I had done with my career, I actually feel that I may be a bit further ahead of where I am now if I didn't end up going to physical therapy school. If I just stayed within fitness and tried to pursue that and push that,
yeah.
I'd have less debt. I think at the end of the day, the choice I made is phenomenal. I love it. And I think that for the person who wants a plan that's laid out in front of them, here's step A, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a job, you make a certain salary per year, you have set hours,
Right.
set path. Physical therapy is great. If you want to try to do the same thing with something like personal training, you
I thought
certainly
about
can. It's
that
just the
because
career
I
path
guess
isn't that. Go ahead.
'cause with the talk about with physical therapy versus personal training and stuff. Back when I had like certain injuries, I felt like when I went to PT, it's like okay, not that it didn't work, but it's like okay, I don't think they did not like go further and like help me like get back into the strength training like components of help me fix my overhead press, for example. Like I had rotator cuff tendonitis, and I remember one time, like when I was working out in the gym, I was like in so much pain, agony of trying to work around it. Then this, I don't know, it's like one of those things where this person came out of nowhere. It's like I found this like random stranger who was like not a physical therapist, but he was just so smart and knowledgeable of knowing how to do corrective exercises and how to like fix a movement pattern. And he said, this is something that he said to me that my physical therapist instead. He says, "You have a muscle imbalance. That's why you're in so much pain." Like he identified that I was forward head posture. I had one shoulder higher than the other. Showed me a few basic like pulling exercises, and I felt a difference in what he taught me.
Yeah, that's good. You had a good
Yeah,
positive experience.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I think any of those pathways, you'll be able to start helping people in the same way. And it sounds like you already are.
Yeah,
I think
and
it's
I
not to go
guess
too much in a tangent, but there's a big financial issue with delaying earnings for a period of time. So if you go the PT route and you get more debt, and you're not able to save for those 3 years,
yeah,
it's more expensive. So that was just
right.
kind of my final point for that when you're trying to decide what's best for you. But I think you can actually probably be happy with any of those choices. It's just a matter of figuring out what works best for you and your life
I guess
situations.
for like all the years I've read about fitness and I've always found it like like attraction. Like this is like a great like idea to help someone who's had a certain injury, but we can help like work around it, or we can show you some basic corrective exercises to fix your movement patterns.
Yeah, good. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and also I don't
Um,
know. I think I may have asked you this once. Have you ever heard of the Agascu method by any chance?
I have. I've never kind of pursued it much myself.
Okay, fair enough. I thought
Yeah.
about possibly pursuing it because, again, less crazy than physical therapy because that was another like thing. At the time when I had like so much injuries from my shoulder, it's like I feel like writing a book. it's like I try, you name it, I tried it. Massage therapy, chiropractic, physical therapy, and it's like I don't know what else is out there that I didn't try it.
Yeah, I think that's actually what a lot of folks do. So let's say you want to be doing what a physical therapist might be doing, but you get kind of turned off by the price of it and
Yeah,
how long it takes. A lot of folks will do massage therapy school, and
I
they
thought
may
about
end up,
that.
yep, trying to learn about things like Egoscue, right? You had said muscle activation technique would be another one of those. Just
Yeah,
trying to get a few certifications that may kind of enhance your ability to help folks without having to go that complete route of, okay, I'm going
yeah,
all the way to physical therapy school. A
right,
lot of the coaches I look up to that are personal trainers, they're very good working with injuries.
right,
Someone comes in with shoulder pain, like you had said, and they're like, oh, well, try these few things out. Looks like maybe you're a little bit off with
yeah.
your posture or muscle balance, whatever ends
I
up
think
being.
I think to me, Egoscue was another like beneficial to me because it's like we fixed the posture and we found out, oh, you wait a minute, just because your shoulder hurt, that does not mean where the pain is coming from. It's coming from a different like root cause. Like I never would have guessed that my hips were a contributing part of shoulder pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing I'm very biased, right? But I think that physical therapy and I would say evidence-based care in general, I'm just very biased towards that. So I
Right,
think any sort of program that's going to tip you in that direction is probably a good thing. There are
right,
lots of people out there that are kind of gimmicky in
right,
their rehab techniques, right?
right,
That
right.
they're not using kind of solid evidence-based
True.
approaches, or they're ignoring the evidence to try something that's very fringe.
Right,
And I think that's problematic as well. Not to say that a lot of these certifications aren't good, but I think that it shouldn't be the foundation of what you learn. I think those
true.
are kind of ancillary things.
Yeah. Like, I talked to someone who is, like, I guess, a semi-friend and semi-mentor talking about trying to start, like, an online business and stuff like that, trying to get your, like, word and name out, whether it's growing a YouTube channel, growing your site. He said you really don't need certifications, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It really depends, like, what your niche and goal is you wanna pursue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I know that was a question you kind of wrote down about the certification things.
Yeah.
I don't know that you need a certification to get going.
Right.
I do a lot of continuing education for marketing and business.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, you want to help people. That's the reason why you get into this field. You enjoy doing it.
Yes.
But I think the other
Yes.
part is you need to make this a career. And a big part of that is kind of the financial part. Like, are you making enough
Right.
money to make ends meet, to buy a house, have a family, all of those
Yeah.
things? And I think
Well,
at the
one
end
thing
of
at
the
a time.
day, like the best personal trainer, best physical therapist isn't always going to make the most. The one who's
True.
best at marketing is going to make the most, right?
Right.
Like it or not, that's a huge part of it. So I think getting the certifications, getting the learning, knowing how to do these things is obviously very important, but that's only one step, right? The other step is
Right.
learning how to get people through the door, get your name out there, getting
Yeah.
clients, doing a good
Yeah.
job with those clients, and then getting more referrals, that type of deal. So
Right.
I think the certifications are helpful to become better as a clinician. But
Yeah.
I would say that get the certifications that basically push you towards your goals. If you need the
Right.
skills to help the people, you need the certification that provides that. If you need
Right.
a certification from a marketing perspective to get more people through the door, that's what you need. So I think a lot of it is reaching out to try to find the tools you actually need to kind of pursue your goals, and not, feeling that you have to get the certification to actually be a good professional, you
Right.
know?
I guess because it just makes me feel like I'm qualified. I have like this, certification that knowing that it's like, okay, I'm safe knowing that I can like train that person, the individual, of what they want to accomplish in training, whether that's for athletic performance or they're just coming off like some certain like injury and they want to maybe like fix their squat, deadlift, or overhead press, etc. Or they're just people who just want to like be healthy for the longevity. They want to continue to golf, or they want to like maybe they a couple elders, they have grandchildren, they want to be healthy and active with their grandkids. Because I can remember before COVID, my last job before the pandemic, I worked at a gym working as a front desk clerk. Man, I saw like some senior citizens being trained by personal trainer. They were just like regular average Joes. They were just doing it for the longevity because they had grandchildren they enjoyed having fun with for doing the activities with their grandkids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it sounds like helping folks is kind of your jam. You like
Somewhat.
that.
Well, I do. Well, it's just hard sometimes, like, when I feel like it's like everyone, we all have our doubts, we have our fears and our worries, thinking, "Are we good enough? Are we gonna be fine? And are we gonna, like, make a difference in that person's lives?" And because like I said before, like, when I went to Suffolk, when I was originally wanted to study physical therapy, no, I'm not gonna name names, but some of my teachers, weren't
Yeah.
always
You
the
had a hard
best.
time.
What's that?
Yeah. You had a hard time with some of the professors, right?
Yeah, difficult,
Yeah. I think I
difficult.
had similar to what it sounds like. So it sounds like you had some professors that didn't do the best job of kind of
No,
teaching. And it
no,
sounds like they also didn't really know some of the kind of heroes that in your world sounds like the Greg
no.
Cooks and the Dan Johns and that type of thing.
I don't think s
Um,
well, actually, he knew Greg Cook, but I don't think he knew Dan John.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I think, my thought is when I was in PT school, I guess it's a little over 10 years, 10, 15 years ago,
Mm.
a lot of my professors didn't know who these folks were.
Right.
And I kind of wrote them off some because of that. But the other thing I will say is that I had very good professors. And they were smart people. And what I
Right.
realized over the course of time is that some of the heroes or the popular people within the strength and conditioning world are
Yeah.
not big names in the physical therapy world.
Right.
So good example of a professional that kind of like bridged both sides would be someone like Shirley Sarman
I don't
and I
know who
think
that is,
Greg
but
Cook. Yeah, to an extent. But the other part is that they're not necessarily enormous names in the physical therapy world, right?
really, I'm surprised.
These are folks that are physical therapists that just started to push into the fitness world, right?
Okay.
And then you get names like Eric Cressy,
Yes.
um,
And that that's
Tony
that's that's
Gentilcore.
that's another thing. When I was, having so much shoulder pain, I remember, like, watching this is not the smart I don't recommend this, don't do what I did. I went on YouTube and looked up shoulder mobility exercise, and I came across his videos, and it all clicked in because my serratus anterior was, off, not activated. I did some of his mobility stuff for, like, serratus anterior, and I couldn't believe how much that also made a difference, and
Yeah, that's
thoracic
good.
extension.
Yeah, and I guess try not to discount your professors just because they may not know these folks. It
Right.
sounds like you were in a different position. You weren't in physical therapy school, but they
No,
still probably have.
I was at Suffolk at the time, Suffolk County Community College from Long Island.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um, I also think that, and this stinks, but education is education in the sense that you just need it. You have to jump through
true.
hoops for years and years and years and years until you practice. My
Yeah,
personal thought was that when I went to PT school, I liked it. I was like, okay, this is cool. I enjoy this, right? But
right,
it still wasn't a professional. It's not like I was able to design the exact curriculum that I wanted and get the
right,
exact people I wanted to teach me. And you can
right.
actually do that yourself just by buying the certifications you like and getting the mentoring that you want over the course of time. But
Yeah,
there's still this process of jumping through the hoops. So I think largely you're basically paying for that degree. Not that you're not
yeah,
going to learn a lot of wonderful things over the course of time, but there's just these steps you have to go through in order to start practicing. And then once you are practicing, at that point, you can actually do what you want to do from a learning perspective, from a career perspective. You start making moves towards that. But I think those are just necessary roadblocks sometimes and just need to be seen as
well,
that.
it
You get
was
through it.
it was a roadblock because looking back when, like, I put my time and effort, I studied my butt off, like, showing that I was really desperate and interested in trying to I don't know, sometimes he just made, like, things, like, so complicated and so, like, abstract, it was just hard to, like, get through. His tests were, not so easy despite no matter how much I put the time and effort in. It just I don't know. It was he was a complicated guy, but again, I'm not saying his name on this podcast or
Yeah.
whatever we're calling this.
Well, hopefully it was just kind of one bad example and you'll be able to get through other, future issues. You know what I mean?
I hope so. Like sometimes, like that's another thing. It's I have like mixed feelings on professors sometimes because of like they have such high degrees. They think that they're just so like smart and brilliant, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
depends.
That's all right. I think you're going to meet those. The amount of times I've had professors I didn't jive with, I've
Right,
had so
same.
many.
I
I mean, I,
we just didn't. Let's just say we didn't click.
yeah. It's like I remember I had like a microbiome professor at Rutgers University, and he literally would write the Krebs cycle on the board, and it would
Right.
take him like 45 minutes to write every single part, and he wouldn't talk to us the entire time. And at the
Right.
end of class, after writing this all up, he would turn around and say, "Hey, when you're trying to remember the Krebs cycle, you have to think of it as a story. If you don't think of it as a story, you won't be able to remember it." That's the end of class. I was like, this guy just wrote this on the board, turned around, told us that we need to remember this as a story without ever telling us a story, and had us go. And all I did was write the Krebs cycle down 15 times over and over again until I could regurgitate it for an exam.
Right.
And that was just, I obviously it wasn't a good experience, but it was just kind of
Right.
learning. Did I
Did you,
learn
did
it? I guess,
well,
I recall it now.
that's
No,
my parents tell me that, like, my dad is a medical doctor. He says in all the years I've been a doctor, we've never used the Krebs cycle when helping patients.
no, you won't. And it's sad the amount of information I've forgotten over the course of time, but to be honest, I don't need that. There's no point in time when
Where I need the
someone's
Krebs
like, "Hey,
cycle as a physical therapist.
yeah, yeah." It's like, "Oh, your ankle is hurt." What did the Krebs cycle say? No, doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Because I don't know, it's like he was like trying to drill as if you're gonna like use this forever as well. I mean, unless you're gonna be like some microbiologist or a professor, that's a different story. Whereas doctors, chiros, and physical therapists, they don't use it. I mean, you do use the anatomy stuff like ankle sprains or like bone, like that is stuff you will use as a physical therapist or whatever other medical professional field you go into.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, good
I
stuff.
do believe in that because because especially if you're like demonstrating an exercise to a client, you're explaining, oh, this is your butt, your elbow flexion, working your bicep muscle, just making that up hypothetically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep, good
yeah.
stuff. You had some other questions, right?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
I guess here's a good. Do I still have a purpose as a physical therapy assistant, despite I am not the big top guy? I'm just an assistant.
Yeah, it's up to you. I think it really depends. I've known a bunch of PTAs that were phenomenal, and they do like their career, they like their job, and it's a okay.
Right,
I think it's important to find a place where you're seen as an equal. I think the
right,
problem is legally, I believe this is the case. You're not allowed to do like an evaluation. You can't like say, "What's the problem? What are you dealing with today? Let's
true,
go through this evaluation and figure out and diagnose what the problem is." As a PTA, you're going to be able to do that, right? It's a little bit
right,
ridiculous. Like you're going to learn diagnosis over the course of time. You
right,
work with people like, yeah, seems like a frozen shoulder. Seems
right.
like rotator cuff pain, right?
Yeah,
But I think you're still going to deal with that bureaucracy of like, hey, you're not supposed to be diagnosing. But if you're in a setting where your peers see you as an equal, you really enjoy what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And you're happy with that, then
right,
it's fine, right?
right.
It just really depends. I think I had already mentioned this, but I've worked in a few places where I had a bunch of good PTs by my side, and I would ask them questions, right? Because I knew
Right.
they were good
Wow.
professionals. And
That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, of course. I mean, just because you have this title of PTA doesn't mean you're not smart, right?
Right.
So,
I know because I guess because I'm because we're not the big head guy. We're just like if the physical therapist not always available, we just we're there to help like the client if the physical therapist not always there to help like demonstrate an exercise because next patient's coming in for the physical therapist. Here's the assistant to help you guidance of showing you the exercise that your PT recommended.
yeah, for sure. And I think everyone kind of has a role. I
Right.
really like fitness. I like strength conditioning, right?
Dang.
But if I have a patient that's getting to the point where, let's say I'm working with a higher level Olympic weightlifter or power lifter, right?
Right.
They're doing well. They're getting out of pain. I'm writing some programming for them and they're making progress. I get to the point where I'm like, look, there's better coaches out there. I'm not the best coach. You have
Right.
the potential to be an elite powerlifter, elite Olympic weightlifter. You want to get there. If I keep on writing programming for you, I'm holding you back. Let me just
Right.
refer you to my friend who's a strength coach, personal trainer who's better than I am. Right.
That's actually a fair enough answer than what I in the past when other coaches I worked in the past didn't always seem to like always have the answers and didn't they never said that part. Maybe I'm going to keep that in mind in the future.
Yeah, and I think I always, stay in your lane, people say. I don't know if that's necessarily the most
True.
accurate way, but the other part is like everyone's only as good as they are. And there's going to be people that are very good in specific areas, right? Maybe you're the
Yeah.
PTA, but you're like the best at corrective exercises. You're the best at teaching people how to do kettlebell work. You're the best
Yeah.
at teaching people how to squat, deadlift, whatever it is.
Right.
You're going to be seen as like the go-to guy that basically the physical therapist might be evaluated like, oh, rotator cuff pain, but I don't know how to teach him these things. Go to John.
Right.
He's the guy. So
Yeah.
you can still, be a specialist and be
Well, I
valued
guess
within your own
I guess
community.
also, like, if I wanted to be an Egoscue therapist, I could, like, fix the posture first, and then we get into, like, the whole meat and potatoes of, like, strengthening and then doing some, like, more, like, athletic, agility training, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of blend it all together and you kind of,
Yeah, yeah, I believe in combine everything, not just, like, rely on one thing.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It sounds like you could definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we got time for one more question.
Let's
Anything
see,
specific?
we already talked about this part, and let's see. Let me see, I'm just thinking, yes, the last is it still possible to pursue P despite no fancy biology fancy degree?
Yeah, I think so. Was it to be a PT or work in a setting that you find fulfilling and you like to do on a regular basis?
I guess what you just said right there, and find it fulfilling on a daily basis and work in a PT clinic and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think if you want to get through physical therapy school, you have to get the prerequisites, right?
Right.
So you probably need biology. I had to take calculus. I had to take Calc 2 for nutrition, right? So a lot of
Really?
stupid stuff, yeah, to get the degree. And I
Right.
think that that's part of it. Those are the hoops you have to jump through if you want to be a physical therapist, right?
Right.
In terms of trying to find a fulfilling career, you definitely don't need to do that, right? I have a
Right.
lot of friends, like I said, Eric Cressy's and the Tony Gentilcourse of the world. They've done extremely well, and I
Yeah.
believe Cressy has a master's. I don't know if Tony has a master's, right?
That I
But
don't. I know about Tony, but I don't know like his. I know. Yeah, like you said, Eric Cressy has a master's degree. Tony, I'm not so sure about.
yeah, but I think the take home is that it wasn't the master's degree that got them where they are at all,
Right.
right? And you can
True.
also say like my physical therapy degree and my business, right? The business I run on a regular basis, I did not get there because of my physical therapy degree. It was
Right.
everything else. And that's one of the
Right.
reasons why, when I look back on my career choice, I think I could be further ahead if I didn't go to physical therapy school. I'm very
Yeah.
happy with where I'm at, right? But the other
Right.
part is that all of these ancillary things that you do to build your career over the course of time
Right.
outside of your degree are oftentimes more important. So, can you get to a place where you're very happy with what you do on a regular basis without having a biology degree? Of course, you certainly
Right.
can. I
This
think
might.
at this point, it's making a decision and just starting to develop some action steps and working towards it, right?
Right. I guess because here's some like example stories that my dad told me recently. He said back in the 80s when he was going to like medical school in Mexico, he said some of his like, colleagues were like either in their 30s or 40s. He said some of them were like whatever their profession was before, they were either accountants or this and that. They didn't go back to a 4 year school to get a biology degree. They just went straight to medical school.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife was a visual arts major, so she
Right.
did photography undergrad and then
Right.
became a physician
Right.
afterwards.
Is she a
So,
physical therapist to your wife or?
no, physician. She's a family
Oh,
medicine
okay.
physician,
Gotcha.
and she
Gotcha.
did an art degree undergrad.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Got any kids or?
Yes.
Nice.
One
Nice.
child.
Ah, gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, good. Well, thank you very much, John. Appreciate you joining me today.
No, this was great. This was a nice insight and also gave me a little bit of like, hope and got my spirits up a little bit, but still it's only the beginning.
Yeah, sure. Definitely keep your head up. It's challenging, right? You're
Oh,
still
it
at a
is. It
point.
is,
You
especially how like I'm in sort of even though like I said, COVID made me figure things out and rehabilitate myself, but I'm still not there yet, but I'm taking small baby steps and slowly figuring things out one by one.
Yeah, and you are still young, right? I'm 37, so it's not like
Mhm.
I'm way
You don't
ahead
look
of
you
you
don't
or
look
anything
it.
like that. Yeah, but I mean, I when I was in PT school, we had a bunch of folks that were married, several kids into the
Right.
30s, 40s.
Right. Well,
It certainly can be done, and I
I
really do
guess
believe that
and
you want.
to close it off, that's another thing. Like I'm the youngest of like two older sisters. Both my sisters are married. One has kids, and sometimes it can be, and like everything else, it can have its pros and cons being the youngest, middle, or oldest sibling. And I guess for me, there's the pros and cons of being the youngest because because both my sisters didn't go to college, smart girls, but that was just their choice. And I'm still in the rut of trying to figure things out for myself while I'm young and still trying to get things out of the way before all the stuff of being married, having kids, before all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Kids do not make things easier. House. It gets
Well,
harder as you
I'm a,
age, right? So I think that,
I'm an uncle, so that's the best part. They go home.
yeah, there you go. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would, to your point, figuring out sooner than later is probably going to help, because once you start having these major life events occur, it gets more challenging, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, thank you very much, John. I'm going to end
Thanks
the
for having me,
broadcast.
and
Thank you
this
guys
was
for
great.
joining, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, have a good one. Thank you.